At 17, she stepped into her first kitchen, not knowing that she was going to be fighting for more than just her career. No handouts, no easy breaks, just long hours and a relentless pursuit to be better than the day before. She moved alone from Nottingham to Manchester, England, betting everything on herself. 2 years later, the head pastry chef, and now the chef ambassador of the Ivy Collection. But success in the industry does not come without a price. The pressure, the expectations. Today, we talk about the truth behind the kitchen doors, the battles, the sacrifices, and the fight to change the game for future generations. This isn't just about pastries. This is about proving the world wrong. My guest today is Chef Candice Gianna Pryce, and I am your host, Chef Ismael, and this is Chef Ismael's Kitchen Quest. Candice, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast. I am extremely excited to have finally a pastry chef on my show. um, so I want to get into your introduction as well as your early inspirations. And so, with that being said, what was your first memory of falling in love with the pastries and sweets?
My first memory was actually I was talking about this with my grandma. Um, she had loads of cookbooks in her kitchen, and I think the first thing I picked up was this baking cookbook first. Like my eyes went straight to it. And the first thing I ever baked was just shortbread. You know what it is? Just that, and it was so simple. Like I thought it was the best thing on the planet. I was like, oh my god, these three ingredients can make this beautiful biscuit. And then from there, like, would go to my grandma's every weekend and would bake something else and keep baking and keep exploring. And then eventually I was just obsessed.
So you started working in the kitchens at just 17. Um,
Yeah, I started something.
so I can't imagine because for me, I started in the kitchen when I was 16 as a prep or as a dishwasher and then prep cook.
Yeah.
And in the UK or in the kitchen that you started in general, um, what was that experience like? Was there a specific moment where you realized that this is it? This is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
There wasn't really a particular moment. It was more just my first job was like in a small cafe. It was really small. We did hard. There was no baking actually that I did. It was more like cooking breakfast, brunch, burgers and stuff. And I was just helping this one head chef. He was the main guy, and I was helping him. But I'd always be able to smell the bakers upstairs. And whenever I got chance, I'd always go upstairs and sneak my way up there and chat to them and help them if I had like a spare like 10 minutes. And I think that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I could do this. Like I'd want to get paid for this. Although this could be a nice job. And then after that, I was just seeking out to find a job in a kitchen where I could bake and I could become a pastry chef somewhere.
So that's very important that you say that because I mean, you kind of have to throw yourself into that part of the world in order for you to be able to get some sort of hands-on experience. And
Yeah.
so, like many chefs have a mentor or a defining lesson early in their career. Did anyone give you that advice that kind of like stuck onto you?
Career wise, I never really worked with anyone when I was 17 that gave me that um like push to do better. There was no one actually there to tell me that. But there was the bakers upstairs actually when I was with them. I would show them pictures on my phone of stuff that I've done, and they always just said to me like, "Just push yourself, never stop." And it was like, we believe that you can do it, so just keep going and going, even if it's not here. Just keep going. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it because the job didn't really appreciate me that much of what I was doing. So I was definitely like, yeah, I'm 100% gonna keep pushing and do it. And then here we are.
Yeah, you definitely have to have some self-discipline and self-motivation in order for you to be able to be in the pastry industry.
Mm.
I mean, I know how to bake. I'm nowhere near your level though. Um, and so like the amount of patience that you have to have in order for these ingredients to be on par. And then, I mean, it's not like where I cook and like, oh, let's throw a little bit of salt and it tastes better, It'll mess up your entire recipe if you do that,
Yeah, it will.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool that you have the patience to do it as well as like the will uh, and and I argue that pastry chefs are way more creative than regular chefs, I guess,
Ooh,
just like me. And I see that because I'm just like I see the plating at the Bocuse d'Or this year that just happened, and it was extravagant. It was beautiful. But then but then I see the Bocuse d'Or for the pastry chefs, and I'm just, like, blown away. I'm thinking to myself, like, "How are they making these ingredients?" It's not even the flavor profile, it's more of the plating and how they all come together.
yeah.
Um, so, like, where did you get that know-how? How is it something that you've um, always had that creative mindset, or is it something that you had to build and work on?
I think I've always had a creative mindset. Like in school, I was always into art, I was always into music, I was always into anything that was creative based. I was never into like academic stuff. I'm still not now. Um, but I'd always like to draw, and I used to always draw like cakes and stuff, and practice and just get better at just art and what I was doing. So all these drawings and all my art and anything to do with my hands, basically, I was just sort of good at. But then when it came to baking and stuff, I had more patience with that because I wanted to, people eat with their eyes. So if it looked good, then I know I'd eat it, and then I know someone else would eat it. So I think that's just where the creative came from, if I'm honest.
Yeah, so it basically came out naturally,
Yeah.
and you just kinda added on to it. That's pretty cool. So, I wanna get into the journey to the head pastry chef position because you are so young at 25 years old, I hope you don't mind me saying that. Uh,
No, it's about to, I
at
look
your
like 12
age
right now.
at your age, I mean, that's extremely impressive, because
Thank you.
not a lot of pastry chefs that I know went into that role at that age. They were probably maybe like the sous chef or, maybe the executive sous at that point, but, you know, um, for a head pastry chef at your age and moving up so quickly, I think that's extremely, commendable of you.
Thank you. It was
Um,
very
yeah, I'm sure it was a difficult journey. Um, so moving to different cities alone to chase your dream is definitely a bold move. What gave you the courage to take that leap of faith?
having a good family, a very supportive family, that was a big thing, and supportive friends, that helped. And to put it straight, it was just as simple of going for a breakup. And I was just sat in bed and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need to go out and do something big. Like, I want to go out there and do something and put my name somewhere, and people can know my name. Don't care how small or big, they can know my name somehow. God, this sunlight's come from nowhere. Um, but yeah, that's what pushed me really. Just the motivation to just get out and change my life and do something better instead of Nottingham's great. It's just a small town, and it's not. I don't think I would have been able to grow. Whereas Manchester is like a mini version of London, so you're able to grow here. There's so much opportunity, and I found it. So it's good.
So I want to know about your current job. When did you first start? Did you ever imagine you'd become the head pastry chef in just 2 years?
No, I didn't. If I'm honest, um, I started the day after I moved to Manchester. They did offer me a week to like settle, but I was like, no, I want to come straight to work. So that was, yeah, about 2 years ago, August time. Yeah, 2 years ago, August time. But no, I couldn't imagine being head of pastry, if I'm honest. But I think it is all about, I believe in manifestation so much. And the old head pastry chef, she was a year younger than me. Um, but she was leaving and she said to me, she texted me and said, "You'll be head of pastry in no time." Um, so she believed in me. So I didn't believe it, but she did. So here we are still.
So what was that moment like when you were offered the role? Was there a celebration? Did you immediately feel, the pressure of being the new head pastry chef?
It was kind of like like a release. I felt like really relieved. I was working so hard. Um, because there was no head of pastry to start with. After she left, there was no one in charge. But then I kind of took it upon myself to teach and help and guide. And then when they offered it to me and said that I deserve it, it was just like a weight's come off my shoulder now because I feel like I've worked this hard to get to this point. So yeah, it was a really nice feeling. It was great.
So personal experience, when I first got into the executive chef role, I was intimidated, but
Yeah.
also a little, um, I was intimidated, but also a little bit, how do you call it? That syndrome where you think you're not there yet. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know, like imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome.
Is
That's the
that
one I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
here
we feel that.
thinking, I'm here feeling like I have that imposter syndrome. And then on top of that, like, sure, I've learned leadership because I went to the police academy. I did that, and they taught us
Wow.
how to lead a team, how to lead, how to conduct yourself in a manner, and whatever I learned off of that, I took into the culinary world. And so, with that being said, for you, is this your first leadership role that you've ever had, or have you had other leadership roles where you were in charge of a team already?
Um, yes, but it wasn't as big as this. Um, Again, when I was working in the cafe, and then I worked into another one. But then I was that one. I was just a single chef, just doing all the breakfast, doing all the brunch, and prepping everything for the whole cafe essentially, and then doing ordering, and then occasionally like running, like helping upstairs and running the team there, and just teaching all the time. So that was like my first experience of like, yeah, I can lead a team. I can make sure everything's done and support like I don't know, say like support like the manager above. But yeah, nothing quite as this big. This one is a bit harder. This one is my hardest job, I think. Mentally, physically, it's the hardest.
So, what's the biggest challenge in leading a team?
I think how do I put this? I think everyone has their own like brain. Everyone works differently. So having to understand different people and how they work and how they want to do things and what way helps them better. That's the hardest part because you have to forget that your 100 is different to their 100 speed. So, dealing with different people and how they work, it's challenging, but it helps you become a stronger leader because you know how to navigate these people in different ways and still get the same outcome of the job done. I think. Yeah.
So, my brother had made a really great analogy to this, and he says he has to wear different hats, right?
Mm.
If I'm wearing a hat, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, Victor, can you do this for me, please?" But then if I'm wearing another hat, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, bro, like, let's get this done." So it's just the way you speak to people and how
It is.
they react.
100%. I live by that at work so much. I'm like, it's all about how you speak to people and how you express yourself to them. Because there's some chefs that, if you say, "Hi, can you do this, please?" they won't do it. But if you're sterner with them, they'll do it because that's what they're used to. That's their mentality. Or some chefs, if you shout at them, they won't do it. But if you go, "Hi, do you mind? Come on, like this needs to get done. We need to prep like faster, please," and they'll do it. So yeah, it's 100% how you speak to people.
Is there something that you had to, I guess, practice in order for you to get to that point? Or was it something that you kind of came naturally to you, in terms of the way you speak to people? Because I asked this because for me, it took time, it took training. And
Yeah.
again, out of the police thing, we were taught like everything's black and white, and the law is the law, and so if they break the law, no matter how nice they are, that's you're gonna have to do what you got to do. Um, but when it comes down to the culinary industry, you kind of have to be, I don't want to say, well, you kind of have to be very understanding of others, right? And their situations. And so, was that something that you found difficult to navigate through when you were trying to lead into your team?
Not really. 'Cause I'm a very like empathetic person. I care way too much. I care so much about people. Um, so when it comes to other people and how I speak to them and how I lead them, I do have to remember, this person might have this going off at home, or this person does have this going off at home. So, I need to change how I speak a little bit. And I think the way I just go about it is how would I want to be treated, if I'm honest, if I was in their position still, because I was in their position. Um, so I just go about how would I want to speak. But it wasn't something, it didn't come naturally. I still have my troubles, and I overthink and I try, like, am I not doing a good job speaking to this person? But it's definitely, I'm still learning. I'm still getting there, I think. So definitely not
Ah,
naturally.
okay. So I want to get into the women in the kitchen aspect of things,
Mm.
because this is how I found your page, and I found it very fascinating on how you have um, your ideas, which to me I couldn't argue with him because again we are in a male dominated industry, and so I kind of want to know about your passion about improving treatment for women in the kitchen. What are some challenges that you personally faced?
If I'm honest, I've not faced that many challenges because I've only ever worked with the most amazing group of guys I could ever like wish for. But I have faced some guys that will scream and shout at me for the wrong reasons. Like if you need a dish, yeah, shout it, cool, but don't shout at me for the wrong reasons. Or people speaking down to me like we're nothing. Um, because I think one chef said to me about hierarchy, um, and I think that sat with me for a while now because I don't think you should ever use the term hierarchy between men and women, especially in the kitchen. There's no such thing. Um, yeah, I think the first time I ever dealt with being in a male dominated industry and a guy showered at me and was really horrible. That upset me, and it was also the sexual comments. Um, Sexual comments, they're definitely ones, or jokes about being like males and females in the kitchen, and obviously them being stronger physically, which is natural. Um, but yeah, they were very hard to face sometimes. But I feel like now I'm getting more young girls come to me asking how to they're dealing with it, and I think that's why I push so much on my Instagram about just women standing up for themselves in the kitchen. Is because I'm having so much young girls that are younger than me from the ages of 18 getting treated badly in the kitchen, 17 to 18 by men, which isn't nice and it isn't fair. So I think that's why I do this Instagram, to do it for them and show them like it's fine to be a woman in the kitchen and show that you're powerful. Do it, like it's 100% okay. But I've dealt with it fine. I just let comments go in and out my ear. I really don't listen because I'm doing my job and that's it.
You mentioned hierarchy,
Yeah,
and in a sense where I'm thinking hierarchy is like you have your executive chef,
yep,
essentially your kitchen brigade, right?
yeah, we are.
Um, so I want to know that, so essentially there's still a huge gender gap in the leadership roles in the culinary world.
Yeah.
What needs to change for more women to become head chefs? What do you believe that, we should change?
Um, what do you think? Do you mean like how they should change, or? What, you're just changing the
I
system?
I think what I want to know is essentially what is it that you feel that the overall system, do you think that the system is meant to work more towards the men or towards the women? And if so, how do I don't want to say this. Let me rephrase this question because
I get what you're trying to say.
I don't want to piss off anyone.
No, I don't think you will. I think it's all these conversations I feel like they're meant to have, but people don't want to have these conversations. But I've only I worked with one chef. She's amazing, and she was a sous chef. But then she wouldn't. There was no room for her to grow. She wouldn't be able to. She wouldn't be able to become a head chef there. There was no room for her to do that. So she moved countries, and she's in Ireland now. She's moved there, and now she's a head chef there. And I think she didn't change anything in the system. She just continued being her and being confident, and she pushed herself. Like, you know,
I see
I
what you're
think
saying.
she
So
can change in the system. I
do
think it's just
you
the way the system is.
right? Do you think okay? I've had female sous chefs,
Yeah,
and I hire based off merit, not based off, you know, the gender of the said person.
yeah,
And with that being said, I mean, she was a former Marine. She did her job the way she needed to do. She was tougher than I was. She was scarier
yeah,
than I was. But the problem with her trying to be the executive chef was that uh there was no more room for growth because I was literally at the top, right?
yeah,
And because we were at a mom and pop restaurant, you can't grow unless the executive chef leaves. And when the executive chef leaves, then she could have had the opportunity to move up, right? But because I didn't leave and I had stayed there for such a long time, you know, unfortunately and fortunately, she had gone to a different restaurant and continued to grow. And I was super happy for her because she got the executive role that she absolutely did deserve.
yeah.
Um, so do you think that you know? Do you think there is some sort of like issue with like men and women being hired in certain roles? Do you think managers are more keen on male chefs versus female chefs?
You know what? I do think it is based on the job, if I'm honest. I think it is more based on the job. Like my pastry team, we have one guy on our pastry team, and the seven of us are all female. Um, and he's the pastry senior CDP. But until I leave, he's not gonna move up, but he could if I left. And same with the woman that moved different countries. She couldn't move because there was only two female sous chefs, and the other six were all guys. And we have two head chefs that are guys. And none of them are going to leave. So she wouldn't have space to grow. I just think it is based on the job and if they are going to leave. In that, I think that is the sense of what I consider that hierarchy. I consider that's the definition of hierarchy. You have your place, but you're not going to move in that building. But you can change the hierarchy and go somewhere else, if that makes sense. You can change
Yeah.
the hierarchy. You don't have to stick with that hierarchy, but you can change and go somewhere else. Um, I just think for females is a lot harder because it is male dominated. That's the case. But there are some really strong female chefs out there that are really pushing it and showing it. Um, but sometimes it's very easy to get put down by a male chef. No offense. No offense to the male chefs out there, but it is very easy. And if we stick up for ourselves, we do get put in a position that we're being hysterical, we're being too emotional. When we're not, we're just sticking ourselves up. That's it.
Chef Claire Smith is definitely a huge example of what women can do in the industry.
Yeah.
And I mean, she has always been one of my favorite chefs of all time in terms of, the culinary skills and so forth. But what makes her above everyone else on my list is, that she's continuously breaking down boundaries, right? Opening restaurants left and right, and
Yeah.
still keeping up the Michelin standard. And I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, you have to respect that as a female chef as well.
Yeah.
Um, so have you ever had to prove yourself in ways that your male counterparts didn't?
Um, I think mainly just being able to handle the pressure in a kitchen, if I'm honest. That's the only way I can say that I've helped prove myself is like seeing if I can keep my cool and another guy, if he can't keep his cool and I can keep my cool, that's me just proving myself that I'm a lot calmer. Um, being able, I think it's just definitely being able to lead a team. That's a good way of proving myself. Some people can't do that. They can only handle working with themselves and another person. Um, so running a team of 8 people, I think I've proved myself that I can handle. I think 8 people is a small kitchen, if I'm right. So if I can do that here, I'm sure I could do that in a smaller kitchen, you know?
What advice would you give to young female chefs who feel discouraged in the industry?
Oh, I get this a lot actually. Um, just honestly, just keep pushing and don't let anyone's opinion or word change how you feel about your career. I've had so many girls come to me like, I don't know if I want to be a chef anymore. I'm getting put down. People telling me I'm not good enough, etc. But just don't listen to them. Keep reading books, watch YouTube videos, watch cooking TV shows, practice at home as much as you can, and just keep getting better. Just keep getting better. If you don't push yourself, you're never gonna get better. Um, and I think also it's hard because the female chefs always come to me about the same thing, and it was always about sexual comments in a kitchen. And don't get me wrong, flirting is a big part of the kitchen, to be fair. You're surrounded by friends, and but like flirty banter is always a thing. But if some people take it too far, don't be afraid again to stand up for yourself. Like you're not gonna get in trouble, just stand up for yourself, put your foot down, and be a strong, powerful woman. That is it.
That's a great answer. I mean, that's one thing that, like, my sous chef, who was scarier than I was, she didn't take any of that stuff, so she was very, our kitchen was extremely professional, and I was grateful that she had kept it that way because at the end of the day, it's gotta be I like to keep things organized, and I like to have the minimum amount of issues in my kitchen, and when I
Yeah.
hear something like that, I immediately nip it in the butt, essentially, right? So that
Yeah.
way it doesn't escalate, and we just leave it at that. Um, so I wanna get kinda to your content creation and your inspiring and how you inspire young chefs,
Hmm.
because you using social media and being a young chef, I think resonates with a lot of the younger chefs out there because we use social media to get in contact with everybody. This is how I got in
Yeah.
contact with you, through social media. I got in contact with several other chefs who were on my podcast through social media. Um, and using social media is a great way to network as well. So you use your platform to inspire young chefs. What made you want to start sharing your journey online?
I think I didn't really see any like female chefs, like girls my age as chefs and sharing it. Like I googled it and searched on Instagram for young female chefs making videos, and there wasn't really much. There wasn't really any. So I thought let me just share like one day at work and see how that goes. And then it was good. And then I shared another 3 or 4 videos. I think this was last year in July. Um, yeah, I was just sharing female videos, and then I gained like 1,000 followers out of nowhere. And then eventually it kept going. And then I got one message off a girl. She was around 19, and she was sending me the most biggest paragraph saying that my videos have like inspired her so much, and that she wants to post on Instagram too. She really like she wants to take more videos and pictures at work, and she said that just inspired her that it's okay to be like a girly chef in a kitchen, you know, 'cause you see female chefs and some you have like a stereotypical guy chef, stereotypical female chef, and someone said to me that I don't look like a chef because of how I look, because I'm can be quite feminine and girly. So I said to her, just do it. If that's your dream, if you're good with cooking and you're good with baking, like just do it. So I think that's what pushed me and inspired me to keep going with it.
I think I started following you when you were at 8,000. Now you're at what, 15?
Mm, I don't even know anymore, if I'm honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if you're at 20 right now.
It's we're on 16.7
Dang,
right now.
you grew
It's gone
quick.
up. It's gone up rapidly. I had a highlight of my growth just so I can see like how many days or weeks it's taken me to get to certain points. And I think from 15 to 16, it took like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, 3 or 4 days.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for
So
you. It's
thank
good
you.
because when you get to that level of growth, you have, you start to gain the power of encouraging other chefs in the
Yeah,
industry.
and I think it's about. I don't think sometimes I say to chefs, you know, that how can I get more followers? I'm like, it's not even about followers. I said,
Mm,
just build a community. You know, I know so many people that've got like, 50,000, but they get like, there's no interaction there. There's nothing. Whereas, you know, I get random messages of people, and I literally will reply to every DM that I get because someone's asking for advice. I don't see why not. So
right.
just build a community, I suppose.
So social media can be like a double-edged sword. How do you balance authenticity while keeping the trends of the engagement?
Um, no, 100% think it is. I think being authentic, I think you can do that with just voiceovers, if I'm honest. I said to people, just speak, waffle, don't read off a script. Some people be getting, chat GPT writing them a script. Don't do that. Just waffle, just write it out in your head and just speak what comes to mind. And I don't know, just obviously the only trends that I do are like little skits, like little videos, and some things that might rattle people. Um, but yeah, I think for me, it's just being authentic. Just be authentically you. Don't. I was afraid of how I looked on Instagram. I was so scared, like, oh, people are gonna think I look ugly. But then eventually, I was like, I don't care. Like, this is like normal. This is a normal person. I've not been, paid to do this. So yeah, just be authentic and still follow the trends. Still be funny, um, but then be you as you're doing it. I suppose if that makes any sense. Yeah, follow the trends, but do it your way.
Make it you. Make it you.
Yeah, do it your way. think I
So,
did a video. Sorry,
I
I
mean,
think I
you're
did a video that was like girly about an apron. And so the only negative comments are from guys because it's about me
right.
wearing a girly apron. So that's a way to be authentic.
I mean, you do have to have thick skin in the social media world. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I do get a lot of flack as well because people are some people are like, you're a private chef because I'm a private chef, right? So, or a caterer, and I'm also a caterer too. Why do you have 3 Michelin stars on your thing here? And you know, and I'm tired of repeating myself sometimes because it's just like, dude, like, I don't want to say mind your own business, but at the same time, it's like, this is kind of like my vision board. This is
Yeah,
this is the vision board, and I don't plan on being a private chef or caterer for the rest of my life. I plan on opening up my own restaurant and aiming for the stars. And so, that's the purpose why I have it up, is to remind myself that you're working towards that goal.
that's
And
good.
so,
It's a good thing to do. Even
yeah,
if you are repeating yourself, I think people would see that as you justifying yourself, but you're not. It's good to have vision boards. I've got one on my phone and it's literally everything I want. It says 100,000 followers. I might not get that, but
no,
still.
you'll get there. You'll definitely get
Just
there.
yeah, you'll get your free Michelin stars.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said it just perfectly fine right now too. I mean, um, you might not think I'm justifying myself, but I sometimes I feel like I am trying to justify myself on in defending my position, but I kind of don't want to defend it.
Yeah,
And it sucks to feel that way when when I have to talk about
it's so
that.
easy to feel like that. I
Yeah,
feel like that sometimes. It's so easy, but social media does that. It does make you feel like you have to justify everything you're doing when you don't need to.
yeah, yeah. I see. I like that. Um, so as soon as so for you, you're a soon to be ambassador for your business. How do you
I
see
currently
your?
am.
You are.
We are now. It's not my business, but yeah. Um, I am one of the four. I think we announced it on Friday, no, Thursday, last Thursday, that I am the chef ambassador for the ID, which is good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now that you are the ambassador of your business or of the business, how do you feel? How do I phrase this question now? How do you Okay, cool. So now that you are the ambassador for your business, how do you see yourself uh influencing or shaping the industry?
Um, well, that is a big question, actually. I think the industry as a whole, the way I want to influence it is just influencing more young chefs to step forward and do it. Because as sad as this sounds, I always say this, but it sounds very harsh. But eventually, the older generation of chefs, they're going to retire and die out. So I feel like their knowledge, instead of treating us like crap because we're young, they should teach us their knowledge because then we're going to have to pass that down to the next generation. So I feel like it's a circle of life, in my opinion. So I feel like my goal is just to inspire more young chefs to keep doing it, keep going, because eventually we're going to be the older generation. That's how I see it.
Dang, that one hit hard. Um,
I say it to people, and it really like makes me feel bad. Like I'm telling people that they're gonna die. I'm like, they're not gonna die, but
yeah.
they're gonna
Oh, I
have to
mean,
be
we're gonna
old
retire.
eventually.
We're gonna
Yeah,
retire.
like they're gonna have to stop,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have to keep going.
Back in 1998. You know, um, that's how I like to talk to my son. Like, I used to watch Julia Child and her shows, and you wouldn't believe the amount of knowledge I gained from her just by watching PBS and um and just sitting there because we had no cable at the time when I was a kid, and I just see her stuffing the turkey or and all this stuff, and
Yeah,
I just thought to myself like, man, like how is she doing all this stuff without burning her hands, and just like I little did I know that she would make a huge impact in my career, but because of her knowledge being passed down to me unintentionally, uh now I'm able to bring that knowledge down to my cooks or to my chefs
yeah,
or to my followers on social media, because I mean I like to think myself I'm young. I'm 35, 34, yeah, and
very young.
but I'm gonna, eventually retire at one point, and we'll see where that goes in terms of mentorship. But I think that's extremely important that you bring that up because there's not a lot of young mentors to be able to see each other as a peer and try to lift each other up, you know?
Yeah,
So what you're
yeah.
doing is extremely important.
Thank you.
Um, so I want to get to the culinary controversy questions now.
I love them.
So I want to talk about something that's a little divisive, and I know that this has been a divisive thing for my pastry chefs because whenever I work with them, this is something that I kind of give them flack about because, I like to use natural ingredients, and it sucks because in the modern baking world, we're often including additives, artificial flavors, and preservatives. Where do you stand on this?
I think it depends on what kind of like I separate baking from the different kind of job. So if I'm working in a restaurant, I know that their patisserie and baking is going to be completely different to a small bakery down the road. Um, some things I don't know. I feel like sometimes it is okay. I think 99% of the time I would prefer to use natural ingredients and natural flavorings. Um, but there's some things in like the patisserie world that can make a difference. Like citric acid can make something entirely different, or different setting agents. We can try and set something naturally, but let's use a setting agent because it's going to give you that perfect desired effect. And rather using like lemon juice and waiting for something to curdle. Um, I think I think it can divide chefs, but I I don't really see a bad problem. It depends. Also, it depends on what country you're in. If I'm honest, like you know, you have there's a thing here in the UK called Sprinkle Gate, because you guys have sprinkled, but it has a color, an E number coloring that we can't use here. And a guy from Get Baked, he invented his own sprinkles that were just as bright and just as vibrant as yours, but they're now legal in this country. So I think, yeah, sometimes using chemicals and additives aren't always that bad. If I'm honest, I don't think they're that bad. I'll be straight. Yeah, they're not that bad.
It's so funny that you mentioned that because we are, I think, no, we got rid of Red 3. So we're not allowed to use Red 3 in our food anymore because it's been linked um, like, I don't quote me on this. Someone's going to fact check me on this, but on ADHD on children. And so it's kind of like a safety thing too, obviously, right? I mean, but at the same time, it's kind of like the argument behind that, I guess, that the industry who was making that, I mean, is similar to the whole TV argument. Like, your kids don't need to watch that. Monitor what they're eating, monitor what they're watching, essentially, right? And
Yeah,
so, um, but it's kind of hard to monitor something when it's in everything, you know?
it really is, and there's so much chemicals and things. Like there is, I don't know if it's a UK or a US brand. I can't actually remember. But Color Mill, um, they had a specific pink food coloring, and the UK wasn't allowed to use it. Like you couldn't order it because they had a number and that was illegal. And then they changed it, made a different one that we could use. Um, but there's so much additives and things already that you don't even see. Like cereals, there's so much additives in cereals and chocolate bars, yogurts. There's literally additives in everything. Unless you're getting it right from the source, unless you're getting a yogurt straight from the cow and waiting for it, then you're not getting any additives. But if you go to the shop and getting it, you're getting additives.
Yeah.
A restaurant, you probably get a few. You'll probably get some form of setting agent in your jelly. You know,
Right,
or your
right.
phone. You're gonna get something that gives it stability, so you're having a good plate of food. But yeah, chemicals and additives, yeah, they're probably bad for you, but they're not that bad because we're all still alive and healthy.
I'm gonna cut this part out. Have you seen the US? Like,
Yeah, I think it's so hard because the US and like the UK are so different. Like your Fanta is like bright orange compared to our Fanta, which is like I don't even have it in here, but it's like a pale, pale orange. So I think again probably depends on which country you're in because there's so
yeah,
much
I mean,
different things.
here in the US, perfect example. When I go to Mexico, we get Coca-Cola in Mexico, and it's made
Yeah,
out of sugarcane. I'm not sure what it's like in the UK but they use sugarcane instead of like the other like preservatives, sugars, and all that bad stuff, right? But here in the and if you look at the ingredient list, it's significantly shorter than the Coca-Cola here in the US, and it's the amount of chemicals that are being put into there. Um, so it's crazy how we have not caught up to the rest of the country or to the rest of the world in terms of ingredients and trying to use more natural ingredients rather than, the artificial flavoring and preservatives.
to be heard here, we get like we have a sugar tax here actually. I didn't.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, don't quote me on this either. But there is a. It was brought out quite a while ago, years ago actually. But like things like like full fat Fanta, full fat Coke, all these full fat things with full sugar. I think we have to pay a lot extra for, if I'm right. Yeah, so UK sugar tax. So it's like a soft drink tax on prepackaged drinks that contain added sugar.
Wow.
Yeah, so we do actually have a sugar tax here, which is, I think it was 2016.
I never even heard of that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so a lot of things we have here are like mostly zero sugar, but things that have added sugar. I think if someone actually listens to this and quotes it, but yeah, we do have a sugar tax, so you think you do have to pay a bit extra if you want full fat sugar and stuff that's added.
Wow. So,
I think it was a chef actually that brought that up.
really?
I think so. I think it was a UK chef. Yeah, sugary soft drinks of less than 5 grams per 100 ml of sugar aren't affected by the sugar tax. So Diet Coke, Coke Zero, etc. are exempt, but anything like full fat Fanta.
Yeah. Wow. Man,
I think yeah, Jamie Oliver was a strong advocate for that. He was a very strong advocate.
I
For
love
some
Jamie
people,
Oliver.
he's a very controversial guy in the UK.
Hmm.
I agree.
Yeah, he's good when it comes down to these food, aspect of things. Um, and you're right, he is controversial. There is a lot of things that I do and do not agree with him on. And so it is what it is. So I'm gonna get to the traditional baking. So
Yeah.
some argue that traditional baking should be pure and free from additives, while others believe innovation is necessary. Do you think that there can be a middle ground?
I think there can be. Um, I think I see traditional baking as like just putting basic ingredients into a bowl and baking it. But, as soon as you start adding, your vanilla extract from the bottle or, all these extracts that do contain different things, you can get vanilla bean paste here, but it does contain like a 1% of alcohol. Um, I think it is fine to add other things into baking. Baking world's changing a little bit. Sometimes you do need a little added stabilizer, like meringue. You can make meringue at home perfectly fine, but in restaurants, there's only going to be like cream of tartar that we add, to keep it stabilized, to keep it up. So I think there is a middle ground. Um, but if it came to choosing one, I prefer traditional baking. I'd always choose traditional baking over adding, everything to make things better.
That's good. I like that. Have you ever had to adjust a recipe for commercial reasons that went against your personal baking philosophy?
Mm, yeah, but it was mainly in my jobs. So if I knew a recipe and I knew it was going to work, but they wanted me to change it and use their recipe that wasn't quite as good, that's the only time I'd ever have to change a recipe in my head for someone else's that didn't quite go by the same rules that I would apply, I think. But no, I've never really had to change too many recipes, if I'm honest.
That's good. So I want to get to some fun questions. Um,
Yeah, that's it.
I want to, so the fun questions. I want to know what your biggest baking fail you've ever had.
Biggest baking fail. Oh my God. I've had actually quite a few. Well, it's funny because I'm allergic to like eggs, so this plays a part into the baking fail. Um, I think yeah, the biggest baking fail is that I think I was getting I had I was baking a couple cakes at a time, so I had two different bowls. And I'm like trying to do things strategically, and then I couldn't remember how much eggs I put into one mix after I'd mixed it all. Um, I started adding more eggs into the mix, and then I flared up into an allergic reaction whilst the cakes were baking. The cakes exploded in the oven. It was everywhere. There was cake batter everywhere. Whilst I'm sat on the floor having an allergic reaction, my face is puffy as fuck.
Ugh,
Um, but yeah, that's probably been my worst. I think I've had minor ones, but they've not been that as bad as a whole oven just needing a whole full clean cake
man,
batter everywhere.
that's gotta be tough to bake with no eggs, or
Yeah,
to bake with an allergic to egg, with an allergy to eggs.
yeah, it's quite funny, I think. I try to see like, the light in it, I suppose, related to eggs and nuts as well. Um, so some people are like, how are you a pastry chef allergic to these things? Like the main things you use. I don't know. I think it can be difficult, but I think, I developed recipes, my own recipes enough to know that they taste good and this is the right quantity of the stuff that I'm allergic to go in. Like I know they're going to be fine. I've tried it on friends, family, make sure they taste it. So I think for me, it's all about texture. I have basically all the five senses without the taste.
Hmm. You do have to depend on your team for that, huh? Just to make sure that everything's on point, or how do you do that, or do you just do it off a feel?
Sometimes feel and sometimes like the look of it and the
Hmm.
texture. Um, I think if when it comes to taste, obviously I have to ask someone else if it tastes good, and or if I'm by myself, I'll make the whole thing and then just trial one little batch first. So say if I'm making creme brulee from scratch, I'll do one brulee and wait for that to cook, and then see the texture, see what it looks like, and then give it to someone else to taste. And then if it's good, it's good, and go from there.
That's cool. That's good then. But I don't want you to get sick. That would be a bad thing.
No, it doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop me completely. It kind of motivates me to keep making things I'm allergic to that are good.
Yeah. So what's your guilty pleasure dessert?
Apple crumble with custard. If anyone asks me, my favorite is the apple crumble with custard. But I think I did a controversial video on TikTok, but it was ages ago. But I think I said like I prefer apple crumble or any crumble to be like 80% crumble and then 20% fruit. So
Really?
it's not really a fruity crumble. It's literally just bloody crumble with custard and then like a dash of fruit.
I man, I've had bad memories with crumbles. So the thing is that like I used to work at a we used to have an apple orchard,
Oh, that's nice.
and we had to make apple crumbles every single time we had like catering events and stuff like that. And I I will take the blame on this one. I gave it to one of my cooks to put into the oven and just to like, to brown it up for us. And he left it in there for a good like maybe hour and a half at 365 degrees, and it was gone. And I probably should have just taken over and just, taken care of it, but the owner was not too happy about that. Um, One ingredient that you can't live without.
The one ingredient, eggs. No. Would live with that. One ingredient I couldn't live without, vanilla. Vanilla. I feel like vanilla always just, I put it into anything just to add a little extra, little tone or something. I think vanilla or salt, if I'm honest, because salt also is a good part in when it comes to baking. I think a lot of bakers don't actually use New bakers don't really use salt that much because they think it's weird, but salt actually kind of enhances a bit of flavor as well. So salt or vanilla?
Dang, you have to choose one actually. I'm not gonna let you get away
Vanilla,
with that. Okay.
vanilla, vanilla, always vanilla.
Yeah, it's a great answer. Weirdest request you've ever gotten as a pastry chef?
Oh, not really had any super weird requests, if I'm honest. I think it's not really strange, it's valid. A woman, she didn't want anything off the menu. She wanted us to go run to the shop and go get a pineapple. She wanted to eat an entire pineapple to herself. So we ran to the shop, got her back, cut up the pineapple. We jazzed it up, made it look nice with like some coconut yogurt, some lime. Um, but yeah, I think that's the strangest thing, if I'm honest. Just a whole um pineapple. I think that was it. Yeah,
How did you guys charge that?
I don't even know. So it's one of the I think with this job, it's like the kitchen is not senior kitchens like at the back. So there's open kitchens in a lot of places, but this one's right at the back. And if a customer wants something, anything, we will do it. Somehow we will do it. If it means running to the shop to get a bloody pineapple, we'll do it. You know, I don't think she got charged too much, but because we jazzed it up, we plated it really nice. Um, tried to do as much as we can in the 5 minutes we had to jazz up this pineapple, but yeah, we'll just do anything for customers at this point.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I want to ask you this other question, but let me finish this fun question, this last one here. Um, if you could bake for any celebrity, who would it be and what would you make?
Oh, any celebrity. Um, my favorite baker when I was growing up was Mary Berry. She was so cute and like she just reminded me of my grandma. I think I'd bake for her. Just sit down and have a nice little cup of tea with her. Very, really cute and wholesome. And what would I bake with her? I think I'd just bake a really nice Victoria sponge, really nice Victoria sandwich, just clean, simple. I think the cleanest bakes that are so simple, like just tasting up the best, rather than something overcomplicated.
Simple is best. That's
Simple is
always
best,
good.
I think.
Um, so back to the pineapple thing. You mentioned that you didn't know how much you guys charge. You as the head pastry chef, do you determine how much you're going to be charging based off your desserts that you already have on your menu?
No. So basically, the menu is created by obviously higher chefs, like super high
Okay.
executive chefs. And I don't actually know who does the pricing for things. Could the prices be a little bit different? I think so, yeah. I think some things could be a bit lowered or some things could be a bit higher. Um, but no, I don't get much of a say. I just obviously make the desserts, send them out, run the team, make sure things are sent out the exact same every time.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you've heard of the IB, um, but there's I don't even know how many restaurants there is in the UK, but there's a lot of restaurants in the UK. Um, some of them slightly differ, but the goal is basically to make sure whatever I'm sending out, you could get in London the same. And hopefully we're all in the same, we're all doing the things the exact same way to make sure you get the same quality here and, in London, for example. So no, I don't get a say in the price. If I could,
Okay.
I probably wouldn't know. I'm not very
Yeah.
academic when it comes to money, if I'm honest. You sir.
It's no, I mean, don't say that, but I think that's definitely a skill that you can learn, right? It's more of the admin type of stuff. Um,
Yeah, I was better off with if it was my own thing, I'd know.
yeah,
If it was my own like my own menu, my own restaurant, I'd be better off at that. But I think when it's someone else's business, then I don't think I would
right.
know.
Yeah, no, because here, I mean, at least from my personal experience, I usually handled, well, when it was in a corporate setting, right? So let's say I was working at Disneyland,
Yeah.
and we had like a menu where, let's say, okay, this is what we're gonna do. This is how much we're gonna charge for the price. Blah blah. Okay, cool. And we already had like a set standard of like how much we were gonna charge in terms of percentage on the plate cost, the food cost, and all that stuff. And then we had our pastry chefs who would actually do the numbers themselves. And it would actually, kind of help us out because we wouldn't have so much so much admin to work to do. It would be kind of spread amongst the main chefs. And so
Yeah.
it would be kind of like a good thing for us to, you know your recipe, you know how many eggs are in a creme brulee and stuff like that. Sorry I used eggs, but
I feel like pastry is always like separated from a kitchen most of the
right.
time. It's like a lot of kitchens I've worked in, this one, it's like this is the main kitchen, and yeah, that's pastry. You know, that's the
Yeah, I mean, every time I walked into a pastry chef's kitchen, like it's so clean, it's cold, and it's very like, how do you call it? They're very, well, I mean, at least in my personal experience, they're quiet. Or maybe when I just leave, they start talking again. I don't know. But it's more like, it's like, I don't know. But they're very like in their own world, you know?
yeah, we're like a
Um,
different island. I see it as islands in
is that the
kitchens.
same way you guys have it in your kitchen?
Um, I guess so. I mean, we have like we call it obviously the line. We've got the line where it's like grill, sauce, sides, cold starters, hot starters. They're in like one line together, and
Hmm.
then pastries in its own little island over there.
Yeah.
And you've got prep that's in their own little island, and we're all like separated and segregated.
Yeah.
So then we all see each other. We're like, "Hi, Marco."
Marco. Just
Like, "Oh,
um, all right, cool. So I want to get to the closing and future plans. What's next for you? Any exciting projects on the horizon for you?
I'm hoping to have um some more collabs coming up. I have one big one, but we're waiting to confirm that. Um, there's not many plans, if I'm honest. I think when I just started this, it was just mainly just to share my experience and share my work. Um, I'm hoping to grow more within this company and help make more of an impact. Um, I want to speak to more young people. Want to go to like schools and colleges and hopefully give like some talks and speak to young kids that are literally finding their career and studying this and wanting to know if it's actually the right path. So I think that's my goals, is just to keep inspiring and just keep going. I'm only 25, so I've still got a world is my oyster.
Absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to aspiring pastry chefs, what would it be?
Um, this was something from Heston that he said in a video. He said that perfection has no place in creativity. So if you think your dish needs to be perfect, or you think what you're doing needs to be perfect, it doesn't always have to be perfect. If you want to be creative, then leave perfection out of it. Be as wild and creative with a dish as you want to be. Um, Follow recipes 100%. Create your own recipes. That's even better. And yeah, don't let other chefs tell you that this is wrong, because there's a million recipes and there's a million different methods and ways to do things, and just keep going with it.
Yeah, Heston is such a
He's
legend.
great.
He's
He's great.
yeah, I mean, that's a great piece of advice, and it's not just, in fine dining. I think it's everything in general, right? Whether it be, pastry chefs, QSRs, casual dining, fine dining, whatever it is, like that
Anything.
does ring true.
Yeah, anything. You don't need to be perfect to be creative. And I do that with, they want to create content, being on social media, trying to make something perfect. Don't. Just be you, let people see the world that you live in. Because we all live in the same world. We don't live in this fantasy island with loads of money.
Right, right. Where can people follow your journey and see your work?
People can follow my journey on Instagram and TikTok, and both handles are Chef Candice.
Awesome. Chef, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me, speak with me. And
Thank you. 2 a.m., right?
it's yeah, 2:13. It is what it
Thank
is. It's
you.
definitely worth the talk because you bring a different insight to the culinary industry in terms of the pastry chef's world. And yeah, I mean, it's such a great thing that you're doing this because I admire individuals who can stand up for themselves, who can, guide the next generation, and for you to be able to be out there and how do I suck at explaining this. I'm just happy that there's more young chefs that are like you, and I'm seeing them kind of grow little by little.
Yeah,
And the influence that you are making is a giant one because not only is it because you're a female, but also because you're in the pastry industry. And I think we need more pastry chefs in the world because it's a I don't want to say it's a dying thing because of AI, but I think we need more chefs like you who are humble, who are willing to help out others and to be able to step in as a leader towards the other chef for the other chefs. And I think that's extremely important because again, you're so young, and I wish I had the mentality you had or you have when I was 25. Like I was a
thank you.
knucklehead at the time. And so I want you to understand that you are doing good work, and I want you to keep it up. So
Thank you
don't
so
forget.
much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, don't forget the
Thank
mission.
you. No, thank you so much. No, that means a lot, really, because I think sometimes there's days when I have a lot of self-doubt. There's one video that I need to edit and post, but it was after a bad day and I was in tears, and I was like, I need to get this moment and speak everything out. So, no, that means a lot, and I'm glad to see that at least someone sees what I'm trying to do, even if I don't know what I'm trying to do.
No, more people are going to see what you're doing, and I admire it a ton because we as chefs can do only so much in our industry, but together, like once we start to like collab, I don't want to say collaborate. Once we start to like send out the same message, it'll start trickling down to the next generation, and hopefully it continues on that way. But
I hope so.
yeah, no, I definitely appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and speak with me. And I wish you nothing but the best and absolute success in your career. You have so much to learn, and just like what Gordon says, be a sponge, and I'm still a
Be a
sponge
sponge.
myself.
Yeah, I say that all the time. Be a sponge, take everything in. If you stop learning, then you're gonna fail.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank you so much for staying up, staying awake.
thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please take the time to subscribe, like, and comment. And remember, stay passionate, stay focused, and keep moving forward with a purpose.